technical security control, and physical control. Physical security control. For those of you that will be that are planning to write a Comptia Security Plus, and you have started reading, you also be aware that some of this information are some of the things that you have come across. You know, so these are some of the information that you need to know, whether you are defensive or you are offensive. Because, like I said, most of your stakeholders are not security people. You need to be able to explain to them in clear terms what you are trying to talk about. So, what is administrative security control? Administrative security control had to do with security control that is being propelled by the management. This is where risk analysis, risk management comes into play. You know, compliance, security compliance. Are we compliant with ISO 27001? Are we compliant with NIST framework? You know, this is administrative control. What and how do we carry out administrative control? This is where we have vulnerability assessment, penetration testing is under administrative control. You know, you say you are an ethical hacker. You are called to check the network to carry out a penetration activity on the network to see if there are security holes. This is administrative security control, right? Then we talk about technical security control. This is where we have the endpoint security, we have the antivirus, we have the like I said about I talked to you guys earlier, the data loss prevention, the DLP, firewall. These are where we have security solutions. The same solution are under technical security control, using technical technical devices to establish security control in an organization. That is what technical security control is all about. Then the physical security control, that we have control door system, like we have in the banks. We have what's it called? Again? The recorder, the camera that records movement and activity. Sensors, there are sensors in place that also monitor for certain movement and activities. These are all physical controls. Fence, security guards, these are physical security controls, right? So I don't know if there's any question around the security controls that we just talked about. Okay, so let's move on, guys. Now, what are the threats to CIA? What are the threats to confidentiality, integrity, and availability? What are the threats? The two major threats is cybercrime and hacking. There's always a common saying that Nigeria is known for cybercrime. And you guys, I don't know if you guys have noticed, most of the guys that we call Yahoo guys, they just use computers to perform cybercrime crimes. But most of them don't actually know what hacking is all about. If you talk to them, they don't know the nitty-gritty of hacking. Yeah, what they do is that they just, okay, for example, buy a tool from dark web, and they will tell them, okay, this is how you use it. So when you steal somebody's phone, try and dial this code, you know, you'll be able to have access to their recent PIN or blah, blah, blah. So that is cybercrime. Using that is what Nigeria is known for. Nigerians are good in the aspect of committing cybercrime. But when it comes to hacking, that's where you see the people like Russian, you know, trying to break into system, exploits, trying to get access. Those are where hacking comes into play. Russian, what's it called, Ukraine, and China and the likes. So these are the two threats to CIA, that is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, let's talk about cybercrime. Cybercrime, like I said, is any criminal activity that involves computer devices. Like that is what Nigerians are known for. You know, social media crimes, what dating scam, different type of scams. Those are cyber crimes, right? You are just using computer, but you don't know how to, for example, target the systems. You don't know how to bypass a network. You know, so majorly just carrying out social engineering attacks. That's what cybercrime is all about, guys. So what are the types of cybercrime? We have computer-assisted crime. We have computer-specific crime. That is, so the computer-assisted crimes are what I've just explained. Fraud, using a computer to look out to find somebody's PIN so that you can access their account and transfer their money. That's what most of the guys, all these Yahoo guys in Nigeria do. You know, those are what we call computer-assisted crime. But computer-assisted target crime, those are the ethical hacking, using virus to bypass, access to a system so that you can gain access to a system. You are bypassing authentication to gain access to a system using what's it called, fileless-based attack, the different somewhere. Those are computer as a target crime. Those are computer-specific crime that are focused on computer. So the focus is on system, server, network. Those are computer as a target crime, guys. Then the last one is computer incidental to a crime. So this is merely using a computer. Computer is just related, for example, trying to gather record of staffs in a company. You can actually get those records from anywhere, but trying to use a system to gather record from a company, those are or trying to commit murder. So there are some people, if they want to commit murder, they have to do an investigation using system, trying to gather information about the person. Let me talk about like the EFCC before they come and, for example, go out for a raid. Some of the time they will try and carry out investigation. The FBIs, they try and carry out investigation using system, using advanced technology. So the computer there is not the focus for the attack. It is somebody else, but they are just using computer. So that is computer accidental to a crime, right? So I don't know if we have any question around this place. So I'm just trying to make sure that I go through some of the basics that we need to understand before we build on this foundation. Okay, so let's talk about attackers and cyber professionals, cybersecurity professionals, right? So what is hacking? The first question is, like most of you, like I said, the first time you guys heard about cybersecurity is always like hacking, I want to hack. But like I said, that is not, in fact, hacking does not constitute a major percent of cybersecurity, to be honest with you. So hacking refers to exploiting weaknesses in a computer network. That is what hacking does, majorly to obtain unauthorized access, right? A hacker is someone that tries to hack a system, just basically to bypass credentials, steal sensitive record. That's what hacking is all about, guys. So let's talk about why the companies, why the organization need ethical hackers. Why do we need hackers, right? Some of the major reasons why we need hackers is majorly to prevent, to see if there's any way you can crack into an organization network. So if you have a network, whether small business or large business, you need to find a way to see, is there any possible loopholes on my network? Is there a way that my software can be cracked, my servers can be accessed? So you need an ethical hacker to perform that simulation. Secondly, system vulnerabilities. For you to discover vulnerability on your network, you need ethical hacker. So ethical hacker in this part, I'm putting cybersecurity engineer, cybersecurity analysts, SOC analysts, under this category here. So because they will help you discover vulnerability using vulnerability assessment solution, right? Then thirdly, an hacker can help you enhance your organizational security policy. So enhance in terms of deploying firewall, WAF solution, endpoint security, F5 solutions to ensure that your network is protected against different cyber attacks, right? So also majorly, number 4 point is to protect customer data. That's why you need cybersecurity professionals, you need penetration testers to check if there are loopholes within the organization. Then let's move on to what are ethical hacking processes. Whether you are a defensive or you are an offensive, you need to know these processes, guys. This is fundamental. If you go for an interview and they ask you what are the various phases, what are the various processes for you to carry out an attack against a network, don't forget this. There are six of them, I think. Number 1 is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is also known as information gathering information. FBIs, whether police, before they go out, you have to gather information. You don't just go out against an attack. You don't just start attacking. You need to gather information. And, what I've discovered so far in my journey into ethical hacking, I discovered that the amount of information you are able to gather can determine whether you'll be successful during exploits, during hacking into a system. if you gather little information, it is that information you will build with. I'll give you, for example, if you are trying to add into a system and the system have 5 ports that are open, and during your reconnaissance phase, you have only discovered only 2 ports. You understand? In your own mind, from your own assessment, oh, okay, only 2 ports, FTP or SSH is open. You don't know that port 80 is open, SMB port is open, and the exploit is sitting around SMB ports. But because during your information gathering, you only discover 2 ports, right? So that means you can't carry out an attack. That means your attack cannot be successful. But if you do more information gathering during reconnaissance, you gather information about your target, the company they work, the solution they are using in that company. Are they using the latest version of softwares? You'll be able to see that, oh, there's an attack. We can actually exploit this version of software that is installed in this company, right? So because your information gathering is it's very robust, it's very detailed, you can look at it and say, okay, I can actually carry out an attack here. Let me go and do a research to see which of these softwares can be exploitable. That is what reconnaissance phase is all about, information gathering. Like I said, information gathering takes about 50% of the ethical hacking process. Trust me. Then information gathering, that is reconnaissance and scanning, goes hand to hand. So first thing, you have discovered that there are 5 open ports, right? During information gathering, you've discovered that, oh, these are the 5 IP addresses that are active. Then scanning. After you have discovered the IP address during the reconnaissance phase, the URL, the subdomains that the website is using, then during scanning, you want to look at what are the services that are running on those ports. What are the version of the services running on those ports? What is the operating system of the server, right? That is during scanning phase. So there are tools that you can use to carry out scanning. You can use Nmap to carry out your scanning. You can use Metasploit to carry out a scanning, right? To discover some of those vulnerabilities. You understand, some of those versions. It's just like you're coming to my house. You knowing my streets does not mean that you know my house. You should be able to scan into my house to see, okay, what are the things that are in my house? Do I have 3 windows? Do I have 3 doors? You understand? You want to know what are the version of the things that are installed in my home. So that is what scanning does. Scanning helps you to enumerate the different things, the different software installed on that network, so that you can plan and see if you can exploit them. Are they of latest version? And trust me, guys, I can say this to you guys. If you want to look out, I used to say jokingly to my friends that if you want to find some of the old systems, you can find them in the bank. No, most of these organizations, especially in Africa, don't update their network. You can see Windows XP, Windows Vista, and of course, those operating systems, they are out of date, they are out of support, right? They are out of support. That means they can be exploited. You know, so people are always looking at cost, but don't forget, what about if your critical access is breached? You will pay. Yeah. So yes, somebody mentioned DV, that is a down vulnerable web application. Those are some of the scanning tools that we have. We have a lot of them. Nikto can help you scan your website to help you scan for fun. We have, what's it called? We have Go Buster, we have Direct Buster. These are tools that over time I will open, we are going to work with, right, to see how they work, how they can scan. And security is getting easier by the day. Our next lecture will talk about how to carry out open intelligence, open source intelligence in cybersecurity, even without using Kali tool. You know, I was telling a friend that that without Kali Linux tool, I can carry out open source intelligence on a web server, and I can find vulnerability. The guy was saying like it's a lie, and I was showing him there are tools out there that we don't, even without logging into any Kali tool or any of this software that I mentioned online, you can run those against any website and you can find vulnerability and you can report those vulnerabilities to those companies. So the guy was telling me that, oh, he's a friend, he was saying that I should scan their office network. And I was able to find a critical vulnerability on their email portal. You understand? Without even logging into Kali. So guys, so what I'm trying to say is that cybersecurity is getting easier by the day, and there's a lot of vulnerability out there. So the next phase is gaining access. So don't forget reconnaissance, scanning, then gaining access. Gaining access is that from your scanning results, from your reconnaissance, you will be able to look at which software to exploit, which one do you, because most organizations actually don't update their patches. So there are exploits everywhere. You'll be able to look at, oh, I can look at this particular FTP protocol, or this particular Apache protocol running on port 80 as a vulnerable version running on this server. Then you go and look at that exploit and start exploiting, gaining access. You can use what's it called? Metasploit to gain access. There are other tools that you can use manually to gain access, right, to a system. Then maintaining access. Maintaining access has to do with creating a backdoor, so that you can create a backdoor. So there's malwares that are called backdoors, right? They keep scanning on that system. Last year, I investigated a cybersecurity event, a cyber attack event in a bank. I discovered that what that malware does is that whenever we try to delete one, it will create itself in another form. Then it will go and hide itself in a registry key and keep updating. That's why most malware, they try to update registry key so that they can, even if you shut down your system and on your system, they will keep running. So most malware, when they affect a system, they try to update a registry key, you understand, to establish persistency. That is what most malware is. So that anytime, whether you leave the system, you put it off, the moment that system is online, the attack tries to connect to a CNC server, right? So those are some of the things. So maintaining access is a way of creating a backdoor so that you can get access to that system anytime you want. Then clearing track. Clearing track is to ensure that you are not detected. You know, most people, the report has shown that most people don't know their system is being infected, because most of those cyber attacks does not show themselves. You know, they always try to bypass any form of detection. You know, for example, a cyber attacker might be able to exfiltrate data. Then it will now clear log so that you don't know that a particular command has been run on that system. So that is clearing your track. Ethical hackers are very good in clearing track, clearing logs so that there's no evidence. Then reporting. Reporting is a very crucial aspect of cybersecurity. Like I told you guys, most of your stakeholders are not into cybersecurity, right? Hello, you guys are hearing me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, so don't mind me.
We are following.
All right. So it's just for this initial phase, guys. I'm just making sure that we understand the basic. Like I said, there's a lot of practical aspects to cybersecurity, but much more also there are theoretical aspects that we need to understand, especially if you are new. You need to know these terms. You need to be able to communicate with them. So if I tell you that this is, for example, a worm and this is a virus, you should, in your head, you should be able to tell them that, yeah, this is what it is. This is what this person is trying to say. You know, so at this initial phase, we'll be going through some of the what's it called, theoretical aspects, so that we have a very good foundation. Needless still, we are also still going to carry out a practical training at the end of this class. I hope we have time to do that. Like we've explained the different phases of hectical hacking. Like I said, you can see reconnaissance, scanning, gaining access, maintaining access, clearing tracks, and also reporting. These are, don't joke with these phases. Make sure you know them at the back of your hand. So let's go on. Okay, so let's talk about threats. Threats are majorly classified into two. We have internal threats and we have external threat, guys. So internal threats has to do with it can be employers or third-party partners that works with your organization, like third-party vendors that work with your organization. They can be employers. Sorry, I said employers, employees. So staffs within the organization can have some malicious intent to, you know, to carry. They can carry out malicious activity on your network. Those are internal threats. And trust me, most organizations have internal threats. So if you are establishing a cybersecurity control, don't just think about the external attacker alone. Think about the internal attackers. That is where you have solutions like identity access management, two-factor authentication. You also have solutions like SIEM, so that it will record anybody's activity on that your network. irrespective of what they do, you know, so that if there's a cyber attack, you want to see which IP address is it coming from. Why is it coming from this person's IP address? You want to, you know, you want to be able to investigate. So threat does not just come from external cyber attack alone. It comes more and more from internal attackers. So you can see the graph that we have here. We have outsiders, then we have insiders, employees, ex-employees, contract staff, trusted partner. These are internal insider attackers. Then we have outsider attackers. That is the external security threat. We have organized attackers. Then we have just, you know, hackers can be divided into three: black, gray, and the white. The white hackers are the ethical hackers. The black hackers are the ones that are the ones that the cyber attackers that commit crimes, cyber crimes, you know, and trying to infiltrate a network without authority, without privileges, you know, without being asked to, without permission. Then we have the gray hackers. The gray hackers are like contractors. They are like assassins. They go for the highest bidder. Today, they can be called by a company to carry out vulnerability assessment. Tomorrow, they can be called by another agency to carry out cyber attack, to commit crime. So those are gray hackers. They sit in between. So then we talk about organized attackers. The organized attackers here are cyber criminals, activists, terrorists, and state-sponsored. In Africa, I don't know if we have state-sponsored, but state-sponsored are like Russian governments have. Do you know that they have an institution of attackers, right? They have an institution of cyber attackers that can, you know, they can carry out a cyber attack against any country. You know, they did that to US. You know, US were claiming that attackers from Russians that are being sponsored by the Russian government, you know, they're carrying out attack, you know, or against their own country, against their own resources in their country. So these are state-sponsored. You know, where you have, like, for example, Lagos government is saying that we want to build an institution of attackers that will help us to carry out cyber attack, to, you know, to try and sniff into data, you know, to try and assess certain critical resources for other countries. That is state-owned, state-sponsored attackers. Then we talk about terrorists. Terrorists are cyber attackers that these guys, what they do is that they, once their major aim is to carry out cyber attack and to cause damages. Their major aim is to cause damages using cyber attacks, you know, different cyber attacks to cause damages. And it's not for political reasons. It can be for, you know, just to lay a claim. Like we have terrorists, like the ones we have, the physical terrorists that once they carry out a cyber attack, they will lay a claim that they are the one that do it. They just want to establish a point, you know, that they can do this and no, nothing will happen. Those are terrorist cyber attackers. Then we have activists. Activists are attackers that carry out cyber attack for political reasons, you know, majorly for political reasons, for political motives. You know, then we have cyber criminals, just like the ones we have. These are normal. It could be script kiddies. It could be professional cyber criminals that are just trying to bypass access, you know, or trying to establish a point, you know. So let's go on to talk about, you know, we've also explained this. These are some of the things we are trying to explain. We have the black hat hackers, we have the gray hats, then we have the white hat hackers, right? So white hat hacker, like I said, security analysts, offensive red teamers, those are the white hat hackers. Then the terrorists are the suicide hackers, right? That I talked about. They can kill. Their own motive is to establish a point. You know, it could be religious or it could be based on their belief system, right? So we also talk about, so there are also script kiddies. Script kiddies are people, attackers that just use tools. They don't know how these tools work. They just buy tools and use it. These are common in Nigerians, in Africa. They buy tools, they just use the tool. They don't know how it works. That's why they keep catching their own guys. Trust me, guys. If you see most attackers that are very good, it's very difficult for you to catch them. It's very difficult. The only thing you can do is that you can see events that they are performing, but they themselves, because at every point before they will attack you, they would have known your weaknesses. They would have known a way to escape. You know, so it is difficult to catch a real professional attacker, you know, out there. You just know that, okay, this is his IP address in his CNC server. That's all you know. That's how you can block it. But do you know the person that is carrying out that attack? So, but script kiddies, there are people that show off. They just want to hack to show off, to show friends that they know some stuff. You know, those are script kiddies, you know. So I've talked about state-sponsored, and I've also talked about what's it called, hacktivists, right? So for cybersecurity professionals, we have three teams. You have the blue teamers, you have the purple, and you have the red teamer. Like I said, the blue teamers are those that carry out cybersecurity monitoring activities, threat hunting, cybersecurity controls, forensic activities. You know, majorly their purpose is to protect critical assets against cyber attackers. You know, those are blue teamers. They are the ones that deploy firewall policies in place for organization. Then we have the red teamers. The red teamers are the penetration tester. Red teamers, they carry out social engineering attack, security researchers, vulnerability assessment against your critical assets. You know, those are the red teamers, right? Then we have the purple teamers. They are in between the two. So the purple teamers are those that can carry out red teaming activity and blue teaming activity. And for me, that is the place I position myself in my career as a purple teamer, because I believe that over the course of my experience, I believe that for you to be a better defensive person, you must know how offensive work. And for you to be a better offensive security personnel, you must also know how defensive work. So the best is always put yourself, you know, in a position where you can learn from both sides. So those are what purple teamers do. I don't know. Okay, so this is also a brief info expatiating on the different cybersecurity professional categories that we talked about. Red teamer is offensive. You can see blue teamer is defensive. Purple teamer are in between. You know, they bridge the gap between red teamers and blue teamers, right? Okay, so let's talk about, so the last part of this, I think this is the last part of this slide. We'll be talking about vulnerabilities, threats, and risks. Please, guys, you need to pay attention and ask questions where you don't understand. So let's talk about vulnerability, threats, and risks. First of all, what is a vulnerability? Most likely, if you are going for an entry-level cybersecurity position, you will always be asked, what is the difference between vulnerability, threat, and risks? They are always asking that question. I've seen that question most time in most of the interviews I go, even online written, they will always ask this kind of question. They want to be sure that you guys understand the basics. Okay, so what is a vulnerability? Vulnerability is very simple. It's weakness in a system, weakness within your system, your network, your servers, or a process is weaknesses. You know, so vulnerability implies the absence of countermeasures. That is, there's no security control in place. That means, of course, you'll be vulnerable. You know, vulnerability is internal and more easily to manage. So those are some of the, so if you discover vulnerability on the system, you can easily manage it by patching up that system, you know, updating the antivirus solution on that system, you know, scanning that particular system with the vulnerability scanner, right? So don't forget, vulnerability just simply means weaknesses on a network or on a system or a process, right? That's what vulnerability means. Now, I want to ask, so if vulnerability means weaknesses, now what does penetration testing mean? What does penetration testing mean? Penetration tests means exploiting those vulnerabilities. That's why they call it VAPT, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. It is not, you don't conduct penetration testing then before conducting vulnerability assessment. You have to do vulnerability assessment first to identify the weakness. Then you carry out penetration testing to exploit those weaknesses. So you can be asked a question, please, what is the difference between vulnerability assessment and penetration testing? So you should be able to tell me that vulnerability assessments are activities or exercises that are carried out to discover vulnerability or weaknesses on the system. Then exploiting those vulnerabilities are what? Are penetration testing. That's when you start carrying out penetration testing activities, right? Right. So let's talk about So guys, let's talk about the next point, threat. What is a threat? A threat is the possibility that vulnerability might be exploited. You can see it. The likelihood that a vulnerability might be exploited is a threat, right? So for example, if you are using Windows 7 on your network at, in a company, that is a threat because it's possible that it might be exploited because Microsoft does not support Windows. It is end of life. So if you are using a solution that is end of life, that is a possibility. There is a threat on that system, right? There's a threat on that system, guys. You get my point? I want to get a feedback from this point. Do you guys understand what I've been saying so far?
Yes, yes.
All right, yeah. All right. Please, if you don't understand, I'm here for you. I just want you guys to understand this stuff, and you know, and let's talk about risks. Risks. What is risks? So the truth about it is that if there's no threat, there's no vulnerability, there's no risk. So for there to be a vulnerability on a network, for you to identify a threat, that means, of course, there's a risk. So risk is the likelihood, risk is the likelihood that a threat, sorry, let me say that again. Risk is the likelihood of a damage or a loss of data caused on that network. So if there is a likelihood that there will be loss of damage or a loss of data on the network, that is risk. So once, as a security analyst, and you discover that there's a loss of data or there's a loss of, what's it called? There's a loss of, if you can identify any damage, there's any possibility of any damage on a network, that is a risk. For you to discover that, for you to discover any possibility that a particular asset might be compromised is a risk. Is a risk. That's why risk assessment is very important. And risk assessment is always done at the initial phase of any project. So if you are a security analyst or a security engineer and you are being involved in a project, make sure you identify the risks. What are the risks? So I want to let's bring down this to an example. You want to develop an app for your company, right? Or you want to develop, you guys want to create a database in your organization. The question is, what are the risks that data could be exfiltrated from this database? What are the risks? The risk is that we could have an insider attacker, right? That we could have an insider threat that could exfiltrate data. So second, we can have a risk that the data could be, the server could crash. What about if the server crashes? How do we, what is the risk there? The risk is that we need to, the risk assessment there is that we need to find a way to back up or have a standby server in place in case there's no availability or this particular server crash. You understand? So identifying the risks in a solution, identifying the various risks that, what are the vulnerabilities that might occur, what are the threats that might occur, that is the likelihood of a risk. So I don't know if you guys understand my point. So what I'm just trying to drive in is that risk is that possibility that damages might occur on your network, or that possibility that data might be exfiltrated on your network. That is what a risk is. So let's talk about risk management. Like I said, risk management is something that needs to be carried out, is a very crucial part of cybersecurity, guys. You know, so risk management a core component of the is a core component of the enterprise security program. You know, you must be able to look at once you have identified those risks, you have to now look at how can we mitigate those risks. So if you identify that a server is going to crash, the next question is, how do we mitigate it? The best way to mitigate it is, one, ensuring that you carry out snapshots regularly, backup, carry out a full backup, a differential backup, you know, regularly, or you have a standby solution, a standby server, an active or an active standby server, that if this server goes down, the second server might come up. Right? Those are some of the risk mitigation procedure that you need to put in place, right? So on this slide, we just talk about some of the things, some of the importance of risk management. You know, like I said.
Hello, sir, please.
Yeah.
Sorry to draw you back. I want you to explain what you mean by taking the snapshot of a server, please.
Okay. So I will say this, like I've noticed in most banks, most of their critical servers, like let me say, let me say, for example, database server. A database server that stores record are mostly deployed on a VM. They are mostly deployed using a VM. That is a virtual machine, right? Now, on a virtual machine, you can take a snapshot. A snapshot is like taking a backup of what is currently happening on that server now. So it's like if you take a picture, that is a snapshot of who you are at this moment. So taking a snapshot is like taking a picture that we saving a backup of what is all the activities that is happening now. So the difference between snapshots and a backup, when you are backing up a database, you are only backing up, you can back up a table or you are backing up the entire database. But when you are taking up a snapshot of a server, any software, any application running on that system is backed up. So you are not just taking a backup of a database, you are taking a snapshot of all the things that is, you are taking a backup of all the events that is happening that moment, so that if there's a crash, you can do a restore back to that snapshot. It will just look as if all the activities, all the processes that you have, all the applications that are installed will be running the way they are. That's why it is important to take snapshots and backup. So I don't know if my explanation is enough.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Snapshots more like cloning.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that word. It's more like cloning. I love that word. Thank you so much. So it's more like cloning. Just clone what you have now and store it. And the next thing I want to bring about here is this, guys. Whenever you are backing up, I want to share, like I said, I'll be sharing my experience along the line so that you guys can learn from it. Don't back up a server, don't back up a record on the same server. A backup should be done on another server, right? If you are taking a snapshot, don't store that snapshot on that same server that you have just carried out the snapshot on. If that server crash, how do you get your snapshot? So make sure that when you are carrying out a snapshot, it is done on a different server. And secondly, there's what we call online backup and offline backup. An online backup is like carrying out a backup on a system that have access to an internet. An offline backup is like storing it in a tape drive or in a flash drive or in a hard disk and store it. And that is one of the best ways to prevent against ransomware attack. Storing your data in an off-site location or air-gapped location, a location or a network that don't have access to the internet, right? It is as simple as saying that it is only systems that are accessed online that can be hacked. Trust me, because the attacker is sitting remotely, right? Except it's an insider attack that the person have a face-to-face access to that system. But if you have an air-gapped network means that a network that don't have access to an internet, right? That is isolated. You can keep your backup there so that if this server crash, it even happened. That was like about 2 months ago in one of the bank. They called me that, please, we would like to carry out some activities on our endpoint server, endpoint security server. I did after carrying out that activity and it was successful. There were certain reports that the system administrator guys, they were not getting again because you have upgraded. Now at that point, they now asked us to refer back to that initial phase. But I've carried out an update. I did an update. How do I go back? Because most of the time, all these vendors, all these security solution, when they update, right? It's just like you update your system from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and you want to go back to Windows 10. It's very difficult. You understand? There's no patch that will take you back to Windows 10. It's always taking you back to the next update. So I was trying to clarify with them that, see, it is difficult, except you have a backup. The guy said, oh, yes, I have a backup. I said, oh, that's good. Do you have a snapshot? He said, yes. So I asked, okay, do you not spoon up another server, bring up that snapshot, let's run it on that server. And that's what we did. After running the snapshot on that new server, we have a new instance running as if it was the original server. We now brought down the new the updates that we did on that on the original server. That was why we were able to resolve that issue. But the question is, if that engineer has not taken backup or snapshot, that was the end. Trust me, I would have told them, see, guys, I don't know how to do this, because the white guys that create this application, there's no rollback. They just create, because they've tested the updates, they've tested the patch. So for them to release the patch to us, that means, it's just like telling the vendor that you want to roll back to an initial phase that is vulnerable. How will you do that? Except you have to call them personally. You have to talk to the vendor directly, But what saved us in that situation was that there was a backup, there was a snapshot that we could, restore to. So that I'm just trying to bring out this story to tell you that wherever you are working, make sure you put some of these things in mind, because your stakeholders, your employer will not tell you. They believe that you guys are the security professional and you need to know these guys. So sorry, I'm taking my time to ensure that you guys understand some of these facts.
Thank you so much. Please, I also have one more question.
All right.
You said make sure your backup server is active. Please, I would like to understand that. What do you mean by active status?
Okay, so your backup your backup procedure or your server can be active. So there's what we call there's what we call disaster recovery, and there's what we call business continuity. Business continuity, one of the procedure in business continuity is that you ensure that the question is, if there's a damage or there's a crash, how are we sure that we can continue business in the smallest amount of time? How can we recover so fast that it does not impact our business? That is where active or active standby comes into place. That means if you have a critical asset like a bank server that is monitoring or managing, like an ATM. Okay, let me give you, for example, an ATM, guys. If you have just one ATM in a location and that ATM goes down, what happens? It means that nobody can access money, right? But if you have two ATM that is currently running, once one ATM is down, every other person moves to the next ATM. Business continuity, right? So in the process of business continuity in cybersecurity, it is good based on your cost, based on your business cost. You can establish an active for your critical server. That means have two original server running. So once server A is running, server B should also be running. Then have a way to sync server A and server B together so that activities on server A can be copied to server B so that they will have the same record. So if server A goes down, server B will just continue working. I don't know if you get my point. But active standby is that server B is just there, but it's not running. So when server A goes down, you will now take time to go and start on server B, copy the data from server A and put into server B and start running. I don't know if you get my point. So active is saying that if server A is online, server B should be online, having the same set of data, the same set of events. So if one goes down, the other one can pick up. I don't know if you get my point.
I totally understand that, but I want you to differentiate between this active and having two instances on the same server, because I know sometimes when you have a server, you have some different nodes, and sometimes a node can be down and the other node picks up. So what's the difference, and what's like the pro and cons of like active and different instances?
Okay, having different instances. So if you're having active is, for example, if you have a server A that is active and you have server B is active. Now they are not in the same server. That's one thing. So they are not in the same node. They can be in different locations. Active most of the time they are not in the same system. They are in different locations or different VLANs or different network. You understand? So that even if this network fails, this one can still pick up. Now, instances, you can have two instances running on a node. That is, I can have two virtual, for example, I can have two virtual machines, right? Two virtual machines running on one on one physical server. So I have a physical server like 5 terabytes. I can have like 7 instances running. But the question is, if one instance fails, another instance can continue, which is fine. But my question is, what about if the physical server failed? That means all the 7 instances should be down. But active most of the time is a term that is business continuity or backup or disaster recovery. There is space that you, in a location 1, you have an active server that is currently running, and in a location 2, you have another active server that is running. So that if one server goes down, the other one automatically picks up. So most of the time, it could even be different. It might be different solution from different vendor, but they are doing the same thing. Like, for example, I'll give you, for example, let's take a look at network, for example. You have a network from SpectraNet and you have a network from SMI. The two are up every time. This is active. If SpectraNet goes down, SMI is on for everyone to connect to. That is active. That is from different solution. But you can still have, for example, you can still have an MTN Wi-Fi here and another MTN Wi-Fi here, such that even if this Wi-Fi is down, this one is still up, right? That could also be active from the same vendor. I don't know if that my point is made clear.
Yes, I totally.
Yes,
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Can I
Thank you.
ask a question?
All right, sir. Yeah.
Okay. That business that active can also be called like contingency plan.
Yes, contingency plan. Thank you. Our business continuous process. Yes, it's a contingency plan. Because if you don't see, the reason why I'm taking my time to explain is because the way I'm talking, I'm visualizing it. I'm remembering those experiences that I've had, bad experiences that I've had in the past. In fact, December last year, I had the same experience that they just called me and say, in this bank, the server has crashed. And I was like, God, okay, was there a backup? They said no. When was last backup? Like 3 months ago. Can we get the file? It's not accessible. We have to start building that server from the scratch. And it took us like about 3 months. What would have prevented? So why I'm taking my time to explain this means that in your own professional life, wherever you are, make sure you think this way. Even if the company does not have that structure in place, these are the things that you should propose to them. We need to have backup. We need to have an active in case, like you said, contingency plan, because there will always be crashes. For example, you just shut down a system unintentionally, or you just forcefully shut down a system. It could crash, trust me, and it might not come up again. If it happened to our personal system, what about server? So you are correct. It can be called contingency plan, right? Is there any questions at this point, guys?
Yes, sorry, I have a question.
All right, let's talk about it.
Okay, my question is about the update.
All right.
Updating of patches.
All right, yeah.
Like the example you cited. So how long should we wait before one install a patch, especially when a patch is available?
Okay.
Take, for example, you cited one that after installing the patches,
yeah,
the organization were no longer receiving some things that they used to get anymore.
Yeah.
So how long should one wait?
Good.
Whenever a new update is available, a new patch is available to install.
Yeah. What's your name, sir? What's your name?
Jeff Tadibola.
Yeah, I love that question. That's and why it's a very important question, and I'm going to respond to this. From my experience, I think patches should not be rushed. I'm talking personally from my experience. Now, in recent times, I will refer to that question. I will refer to some scenario in this question. In recent times, I noticed, because what I do sometimes, I do personal research on exploits on that happens on Microsoft system, and I've noticed that in recent times, once you rush to update a patch, for example, it could lead to another vulnerability, right? Now, I think you can give a period of a week to study what patches should be done in batches. Don't just patch the whole system. No, patches should be done in batches. So if you have a bank that has 5,000 to 10,000 customers, like what I advise, I give professional advice to my guys in the bank. I said, don't do patch on all the system at once. Take out the less critical servers and do a patch on them. Watch for a while. You can watch for 2 or 3 days and look at is there any impact? Is there anything that people are saying in the wild? What are there other customers that are using this solution? Are they complaining? No. Then you can extend the patch. You can extend it. But if it is a critical patch, if it's an emergency patch, then you can start from the critical servers. But make sure that your patches are done in batches. Do you understand? Now, hello, Agbola, do you understand? So Hello?
Yes, I understand.
Yeah. I'll give you a scenario. Like January this year, a particular bank sent us email. I want you guys to investigate. There's a new patch that was, we have this antivirus solution and is affecting our email server, blah, blah, blah. We cannot send attachment out. I was now investigating. I was like, wow, what's the issue? I had a session with the customer. I discovered that it is true that whenever you want to send an attachment that is heavy, it is delayed, and they don't have that experience before. So they were requesting, please take us to the next, to the previous version. We don't want this new patch. And I asked them, who carried out this patch? I now discovered that it was an automated patch from the vendor of that solution. So the vendor did an automated patch, without looking at the impact. Now it started impacting all customers, and customers were complaining. So at the time, we now started writing to the vendor, please, you guys have carried out an automated patch and is affecting our clients here in Africa. We need you to revert back. They said it's not possible, blah, blah, blah. We had to be on that issue for like a month, for like a week or two, so that they can release a new patch that will resolve that issue. So the question here is that if the vendor of that solution have made that update manually, then they would have advised that patches should be done in batch, so that customers can look at update in batch and look at, oh, is there any impact? If there's an impact, they can quickly revert or escalate the issue. You understand my point? So to answer your questions, patches should not be done immediately. Even though they correct certain exploits, they should not be done immediately because they can introduce new exploits or vulnerabilities, right? So, but it should also not be delayed. Please, I want to balance. It should not be delayed. That was the cost of WannaCry. WannaCry, the patch for WannaCry in 2017 was released like 3 months or 2 months before. But most organizations delayed for that long. And when WannaCry came out, it was exploiting a vulnerability that Microsoft has already released, right? And when it started exploiting, it hit several companies around the globe. So don't delay patching and don't do it immediately, so that it's like you have to find a way to balance. For me, I would recommend a week. A week is not too long for you to understand the impact of a new patch. I don't know if that answers the question, guys. I don't know if that.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go on. Okay. Sorry. We want to talk about cyber attacks, and like I said, an attack is an attempt to disable computers, steal data, or try and breach a computer system. That's what cyber attacks are. Like, so let's talk about the common types of cyber attacks, guys. You can see from here, we have malware attacks. Malware attacks, like you guys know, malware is a malicious software, that can be used to carry out malicious intent, steal or infiltrate a computer system. So softwares that have some malicious application attached to them are called malwares, right? We have denial of service attack. We also have DDoS attack, and distributed denial of service. Majorly, the aim of this attack, what it does is to ensure that it makes sure that services is unavailable, network is unavailable. That's what denial of service attack does. We have man in the middle attack, where you have an attacker trying to sniff data, trying to intercept a network between a sender and a receiver. We are going to explain this in details. We also have phishing attack, right? You guys know what phishing attack, sending out mails that contain malicious link, so that users can be tricked to give out their personal information. We have drive-by attack. Drive-by attack is when you access a particular system. You accessing a particular website, and automatically you are infected. A particular malware, a JavaScript file, or a JavaScript file is downloaded to infect your system. It can be a DLL file, it can be a JavaScript file to infect your system, right? So we have password attack, brute force. There are types of password attack. It could be brute force attack. Like I said, we'll explain this as we go on with other slide. We have dictionary attack. We have cross-site scripting attack. These are majorly attacks that affect your web application. OAuth top 10. You guys would have heard of OAuth top 10. We have cross-site scripting attack. So what is cross-site scripting attack? Cross-site scripting attack majorly involve you injecting certain website with malicious JavaScript file, such that it can steal cookies when user visits those sites and click on certain important updates. So it can steal cookies, it can steal credentials that are stored or passwords that are stored on your browser. So they are just malicious. It can be a JavaScript file, it can be a malicious PHP file that is being injected on your web application, to steal data, majorly to steal your cookies. We have Sql Injection Attack. Sql Injection Attack also affects a web application. Majorly is using malicious SQL queries, to bypass authentication and have access to your backend database. So most of the time, use Sql Injection Attack to have access to critical information at the backend database that is serving your website. Users, these attackers want to be able to see what are the records, PIN, account number, just by entering a malicious query on your username and password login page. That's what Sql Injection Attack does. So it's, like I said, it majorly affects the backend database. Then we have eavesdropping. Eavesdropping is like sniffing into the packets of a network using a packet sniffer to capture packets on a network, so that you can update and redirect those packets to your victim. Then we have belly attacks too. So let's go on to look at the information about each of these attacks. So like I said, denial of service attack and distributed denial of service attack, majorly, their major aim, you can see when a massive number of requests overwhelm a network, their major aim is to overwhelm a network. It's like sending
I can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't see my screen?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the only one. It's blank.
I can see your screen.
Oh,
I can see your screen too.
I can see the screen too.
I can see as well.
okay, sorry.
All right.
So let me stop sharing and share again.
Okay. So now you've stopped.
Yeah, so I want to share again. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you.
All right. So, like I said, DOS and DDoS, denial of service, like the name implies, it tries to deny access to services. It makes services unavailable for organization. Guys, this is one of the, how would I put it, one of the topmost list of attack out there. Why? Because you don't need to know the software the person is using, the application the person is using on his network. All you need to do is to, try and infiltrate some certain computers on the network. They call them bots, BOT, and try and redirect traffic on that website. It's like you are redirecting a lot of traffic requests on a website, sending so many requests at the same time on the website, such that the web server will be overwhelmed and will not be able to collect enough more requests from the sender or from the source. So that could overwhelm that network, because every network have a point. Every network have their own, how do I put it, have a memory gauge. So, for example, you can have a network that the maximum limit is maybe 100 MB per second. If you have requests coming at that rate frequently, it could overwhelm that network. So DDoS, so what is the difference between DOS and DDoS? DDoS is using a single system to attack a victim, to ensure that services is not available on that victim network. But when you are using several systems to do the same thing, it's called distributed denial of service. It's called DDoS. So DDoS uses a huge number of systems to carry out the attack, while DDoS uses a single system to carry out the same attack, right? So what is man in the middle attack? A malicious attack. Okay, so somebody's raising.
I have a question, please.
Okay.
What do you stand to gain with these DDoS attacks?
Okay, what attackers stand to gain with DDoS attack is to make that network unavailable. It's majorly like I said, it's malicious intent. There are different ways why these attackers carry out this attack. Some people is for fun. So some people, for example, they just want to prove a point. Like example, let me give you an example. Maybe in Nigeria now, some guys now want to prove a point to maybe CBN or EFCC on their website. They might just want to make sure that that website is not available. And let me tell you the impact. The impact is more on businesses that have a lot of social presence. Look at what's it called? What are the online shops that we have again? I've forgotten. We have who can remember?
Jumia.
Sorry?
Jumia.
Yeah?
Jumia.
Thank you. Jumia, for example. If you carry out a DOS attack or DDoS attack on Jumia website, do you know that site will be down? That site will be down. That means it's impacting on their business, right? That it's impact. So there are businesses that they can't afford for their service to be down. They can't afford. What about, let's take a look at even a bank. If you carry out a DDoS attack on a bank and that network is overwhelmed, that means ATM cannot work. It will be sent out of service, right? That means transaction cannot be processed. So the impact is huge, guys. The impact is huge beyond just carrying out a malicious attack. The impact is huge because if your network is overwhelmed, what it means is that service is no longer available. It's at a standstill. You cannot transact. You cannot do anything. So for businesses that rely on a very large online presence, it's going to affect their performance that day, during those periods. So the impact for any cyber attack is huge, no matter how small, right? I don't know if that answers your question. All right, guys. So for man-in-the-middle attack, like the name implies, the attacker. Okay, so someone is still raising up his hand. Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to ask. You said for DDoS, you have to, if you like, is a distributed denial of service. So to create your bots, do you have to hack into other people's systems to make them a bot, or how do you go about creating a bot?
So yeah, you have to infiltrate other people's system. You have to infiltrate other people's system. Or you can infiltrate some internet how they call it, IoT devices that have directly access to the internet. Like, if, for example, let me put it this way: you can create a bot. An attacker can create a bot from by trying to make provision of, for example, let's say the attacker is trying to make provision of 10 systems. Instead of just using one system to attack a website, he make provision of 10 systems. Maybe you have access to 10 systems, and he's using those 10 systems at the same time to infiltrate, to send requests to that single site at the same time. Also, there are tools that can behave like bots. There are tools these days that you can also create a bot. You can create a bot. Even you can use a system to create a bot, multiple bots that can be sending requests at the same time on that network. Yeah. Okay. So I'm listening.
Okay. So like when I heard about DDoS, what comes to my head is that, like, when creating a bot, what comes to my head is that maybe the attacker will send you like a malicious script. And when you run that script on your system, automatically it becomes a bot, that kind of thing.
No, that's not how it works. The way it works is that do you know that there's what we call cyber attacker as a service, ransomware as a service. Now, these attackers, do you know that they have a community, right? They have a community. They have, just like we have a community now, they are like a company. They have institution. So they can come out with a plan and say, every systems that we have, we are going to direct the request to this, or we are going to create a bot on our system that will be sending requests at every second or every minute. That bot will be sending 5,000 requests, or will be sending 10 or 20 requests in a minute, or in an hour. In an hour, you want to send 1,000 requests to a particular server. If you can create those bots on your server. Like somebody was saying, you can have different instances on your VM. If I have a good resources for my physical system, I can create 10 instances on my VM. And those instances will be sending requests at the same time to that victim machine. That is how a bot can be, right? You don't need to create a script and send it to the attacker. No, that's not how bot does. That's not bots anymore. So I don't know if that's that is fine.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, okay, so for man in the middle attack, we have a malicious attacker that sits in between the sender and the recipient, trying to read information, right? Trying to read information. This is where the attacker uses tools like sniffer that can sniff into your network, into your wireless network to look at packets, Also, this is where the attacker can also install a rogue wireless device, and so that's why it is not good, guys. It is not good for you to use a publicly accessible network that doesn't have a password. So even if you're in the airport, you are anywhere, and they tell you that you are in the hotel. If you're in the hotel, guys, and they tell you there's free internet access, make sure if you are connected to that internet access, you could only use it for maybe limited things. Don't use those kind of internet access to log into any site to transfer funds. It could be sniffed. It could be a strategy to gain access to your private data. So if a network is sniffed, anything you enter, for example, a good way to practice this is like using a Bob suit. A Bob suit can interfere between your requests. A Bob suit is a software that can interfere between your requests on a browser and the web server. So anything you send, is because of the time, I would have want us to look at how we can do this. We can create a Bob suit so that any request that is going from your browser, it will first get your Bob suit. The Bob suit will see username and password in clear text before it can now redirect it to your web server. So that can be like a man in the middle attack, more like a sniffer, a solution that can sniff into packets, and gain access to resources. So we have phishing. You guys know what phishing attack. So this is also a very important point. You should be able to differentiate between what a phishing is, a spear phishing is, and what a whaling is, because there are different types of phishing. So if you are preparing for Comptia security exam, you need to know, even as a cybersecurity professional, you need to know what a spear phishing attack, because phishing is one of the topmost ways through cyber attack carry out attacks, on their victim network. So one of the topmost attack vectors that we have out there is phishing. Having a malicious email with a malicious attachment in place, or a malicious URL, that is sent to a group of people, a single person, or CEOs or VIPs, whatever they are, is phishing. So let's later on we'll look into the different type of phishing. But like I said, we have spear phishing. Spear phishing is like carrying, for example, let me differentiate between phishing and spear phishing. So phishing is like sending malicious email to just anybody out there on the internet, right? It does not matter whether they are from any bank or whether they are from any organization. But when you carry a targeted phishing attack on a specific group of people, maybe on one department in an organization, or just one department, or a group of people in a state, it's called spear phishing. Spear phishing is targeted. That's why spear phishing is one of the topmost attack vector, because the attacker will study the company, do reconnaissance, information gathering, scanning, then he send out a spear phishing, email to find a way to compromise that particular group of people in that company. That's spear phishing. But when phishing attack is carried out against executive, like executive managemental people, the senior executive, MD, CEO, is called whaling, WHALING, whaling attack. So it's a type of phishing attack that is carried out against senior executive member. Like I talked about drive-by attack, attackers inject insecure websites with virus that ends up infecting the devices of visitor. So when you visit, there are some websites that when just visiting them alone, you are going to automatically download that malicious JavaScript file that can infect your system. Those are drive-by attack. You don't even need to do anything, just visiting those websites. That's why a security solution like web control comes into place here, right? Comes into place here, guys. So let's look at other attacks. Let's talk about password attack. Let's talk about password attack. Okay, seems like some people are tired. Do you guys want us to take a break or we should continue? I want us to vote at this point. Should we take a break or we should continue at this point? Because we're still going random. I want to get feedback from you guys. Should we take a 5 minutes break or we should continue? I want to get a response. Okay, so somebody's saying a break, please. Can we take a 5-minute break, guys? How many of you support that? Okay, okay, so can we take a break? Let me pause the recording. Somebody raised up his hands, so I'm listening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, so I'm there. So you talk about Comptia security certification. So I want to ask a question.
Yeah.
Is it necessary for someone that's already has CCNA certification to do it? Is it necessary?
Yeah. I would advise that you do that certification. Why? Because even me myself, I did my CCNA in 2014 while going for NYC. But when I came out, I discovered that the world has gone beyond networking, except if you want to be a networker, right? You can do your CCNA, then you move on to CCNP, just stay in that route. But if you're coming into cybersecurity, having that CCNA knowledge is a very good one. But you need the Comptia Security Plus certification. Why? Because that also shows that you are grounded in the fundamental aspect of cybersecurity. CCNA just teaches you about networking. It's the very few things it does on security is access control list, and it talks on some few aspects. But most companies will rather go for Comptia Security Plus. Why? Because it is not vendor specific. CCNA talks about their products alone. That's why it is limiting, right? We just talk about Cisco products alone. But remember, most organizations don't use Cisco alone. There are organizations that are out there that use different vendors. So that is what Comptia Security does. It does not talk about vendor. It talks about the general fundamental cybersecurity. So I would advise that you do that certification too. And I shared with you guys last week that because of the cost of exam, the Comptia Security exam, I showed you guys a platform on Allison where you can go take the course for free, and at the end of you can take the course from Allison or Udemy, and because like I was talking to a friend, I said no HR will ask you whether your Comptia Security exam certification is from Comptia vendor. No, none of them will ask you whether it's from Comptia vendor. They just ask you whether you have a certification and you show it to them. So if you are limited on resources in terms of what's it called, budget, you can go on Allison. Let me just quickly show you guys the platform again. I think I did that for those of you that were here last week. I did that to show you. Okay, yeah. So this is it. So if you can just log in, create an account, and start going through the program. It's free. It's free, and it's an institution from Ireland. So they make all their courses free. But if you want to get the e-copy of their certificate, you can pay like about £10, or they're about like £10 or $20. So I don't know the cost at the moment, and they have discounts, that you could also pay for. So I would encourage you guys, everyone, trust me, I'm saying it without any regret. I want to encourage, if you don't have the Comptia Security Plus, this is a good platform to put it. Because why? Like I said, whether you are defensive or offensive, try and do this exam. It establishes that you understand the basic aspects of cybersecurity. You can see that it doesn't take a lot, just 10 to 15 hours. So you can gauge yourself, and take notes. And please take notes. It has a quiz exam at the back. So when you are done, you could request your certificate and pay, and put it out there on your LinkedIn, on your CV. This is a way also to stand out, because the real exam costs about like 150,000 naira now, because of dollar. You know, I did mine for 75K like about a year or two ago. So, but it is getting costly about the day because of the rate of dollar. So I would say this is another opportunity for you to take the exam. You know, just put it along in your schedule this month. You know, stretch it out so that at the end of this training, I would also be glad that you have done this training too. So our training, our bootcamp that we are doing is more of hands-on. Then this also can expose you to the theoretical aspect of cybersecurity. You know, so it will help you and you know, make you stand out, grounded on some of the things that you need to know. You know, so please, as many of you that have the time, but if you have the resources, do the major exam from Comptia. If you have the resources, yeah, you can do the. If you want to do that one, you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. I'll share with you resources that you can use to read. You know, I don't collect money for anything, so I'll share with you for free. These are resources that I buy myself, so I'll share it with you for free so that you can use it to study and pass the exam. So I don't know if I answered your question correctly, guys. What's his name?
Yes, you answered it.
All right. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, let's continue. So we talked about password attack. Like I said, we have two major different types of password attack. We have brute force attack, and we also have dictionary attack. So this is where you are trying to guess the username and password so that to bypass authentication into a system, right? That's what password attack does. Trying to find a way to, one, get the password hash and crack it, or trying to guess the password. Because most of the time, people use the same password on all their social media platform, on their email account. Like I showed you guys that my account was breached. The first thing what I did on my Yahoo was to update my password, you know, because if I'm using that same password on all my accounts, that means they will be able to access my Facebook, my Instagram, using that username and password that was breached, right? So those are password attack. So Sql injection attack, like we talked about, like you can see, look for a way to compromise the database, right? By having access, by having access to it, output sensitive data. So the major goal for Sql injection attack is the backend database, trying to access all the sensitive record, customer record on the backend database of a web server. That is Sql injection attack. Then cross-site scripting attack, you can see a malicious script is injected in the website, like I explained, and is downloaded by a victim browser when a visitor visits that site. You understand? So it could either be a website, a game, or email, still function as expected. So basically, it's a malicious script, it could be a JavaScript file that is injected in an insecure website. So when you visit those websites, you should be asked to update. You'll be asked to update, or you'll be asked to click a link. Immediately you click the link. Immediately you click the link, the JavaScript file could download. It will be downloaded on your system without you knowing. Let's do a simple. I think there's this site that normally have you guys that normally watch movie. Let's take a look at this. I want to take. There are some sites I suspect that they normally have cross-site scripting attack. That's what I'm trying to open. Okay, guys, you can see all this. So immediately you click it, right? It will take you to another site. This could, if this is a JavaScript, it will download a malware. You see, it will download a malware. Some might just be a redirection, you know, for them to post, for them to advertise a product. Some can be a malicious attack. As you are, for example, you see adverts online, pay in Naira, you click on it, it will redirect you. If it is a cross-site scripting attack, it will download a JavaScript immediately, because you clicking on it is like you accepting to download it. That's what it means. I don't know if you get my points, guys. You get my points. So, you know, even you just scrolling around the site, even if you just scroll around the site, it will just take you to a JavaScript file. So that's what some of these sites do. They go to movie sites, game sites, such that once you click, you can see, do you need money? Something like this. And you're interested because, you know, you're curious. If you click on it, it could be a cross-site scripting attack. It will download the malicious JavaScript file on your system and start infecting your system without you knowing. So those are some of those the example of this kind of attack, right? Hope you guys get my point. So eavesdropping attack, like I said, eavesdropping attack is quite is about monitoring information on a compromised network. You are waiting for between information that is being sent from the sender to a receiver. You know, you are trying to eavesdrop on those packets and see what relevant information that you can find there. So let's talk about birthday attack. Finding matches, finding matching matches of hash value. So how do I explain this attack? So for example, okay, how do you mitigate against cross-site scripting attack? A major way to mitigate against cross-site scripting attack is one, making sure that your website is secure. Because remember, the first thing the attacker will do on that site, the first thing an attacker does is that the attacker will visit your site and the attacker will scan that site and look out for if there's a way for him to upload the JavaScript file. So if there's a way for him to upload the JavaScript file, he will now upload the file on that your site. So most cross-site scripting attack occurs in insecure websites, in websites that don't have ways that are not secure. Number one, websites that are created without following security frameworks. So if the attacker find a way to upload a script on your file, for example, I'll give, maybe there's a page that shows username and password, upload a request or upload a song or upload a file. You know, if a site that has a portal or a page that is asking for you to upload something now, or upload a picture of yourself, instead of uploading a picture, a JPEG picture, the attacker will upload the malicious script, you know, and it will change the extension of that malicious script to .jpeg. So your site will think that it's a picture file, not knowing that it is a malicious JavaScript file. Then it will now upload that script such that whenever a user visits that site and click on the link, so the script will be asking users to click on the link. It might be showing something like this. The script might have this information, right? It might be showing something like, it might have a CSS file or an HTML file that is showing an information on that website. So when you click on it, you are thinking that you are clicking on a legitimate link. You are downloading that JavaScript file on your system. And before you know, it will start infecting and spreading, you know, to cause persistency or lateral movement on your network. I don't know if you get my point. So the best way is to secure the website. Secure any website you have. Make sure you run vulnerability assessment on that website. Make sure you carry out penetration testing on that website to be sure that there are no loopholes for attackers to attack your website. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so birthday attack. So this is how birthday attack works. There are times that attacker does not have access to your username and password in clear text, the clear text of your password. Now, whenever you log into a system, your password is stored as hash values. Hash value, that is on clear text, hash values. Now, attackers can find a way to hijack those hash values. They will now go and check on a database, on a leak database online that have several, that contain a list of hash values. They will now start comparing them one by one. If they find a hash that is the same, that matches, that you can see, finding matching matches of hash messages, you know, they will know that the clear text that they found online is your password. Majorly, that is what they call pass the hash attack. Finding a way to grab your hash value. They will not crack it to get the clear text. They will go and find a way to see if your hash value exists somewhere in a leak database online, to see if this person hash value matches what we have on our database. If it matches, then because hashes don't change, the hash value of A is always A anywhere in the world. So if A is your password and attacker capture your password, the hash value of that A, they will go and check their database. If they see any match of that hash value, they will know that A is your password, and that's it, guys. That's what they call birthday attack. I don't know if my explanation is good enough. you guys can also do further research on some of these things and ask me questions maybe after the class, guys. So what is malware attack? You guys already know what malware attack. Malicious software, no, that can be used to bypass or hack a device, right? So let's move on. So I also have so we've gone through some of these things. I've explained because of time, but I'll just tell you some of the type that we have. Now we have under denial of service and DDoS, that is distributed denial of service attack, right? We have different types of DDoS or DOS attack. Number one is TCP sync flood attack. Number two is teardrop attack, smooth attack, ping of death, and bonnet attack. The most important that you should take note of: TCP sync flood attack and ping of death attack. Also smooth attack. Now, so what is TCP sync flood attack? Now, this is an example of TCP sync flood attack. You guys know that TCP protocol is a connection-oriented protocol, right? That means there must be a three-way handshake, a sync ACK, and an acknowledgement. That is how TCP protocol works, right? Now, when a user sends a sync packet, now let's do this. I want to show you guys TCP three-way handshake. Now, ideally, this is how a TCP three-way handshake works. You see a client saying a sync attack, the server responds with a sync ACK attack. Now the client responds with an acknowledgement. Let me explain that in English. I am a computer, I want to access a server. I will send server, I want to send a request. Are you there? The server will respond, yes, I'm available. I'm online, I'm available. That is it. So the first request from the client sending request that, oh, are you there? Are you available? I want to send a request. The server responds, yes, okay, you can send the request. He's acknowledging that you can send the request. The client now, oh, okay, thank you. I will send my request. So the TCP handshake needs to be established before requests are sent. That is TCP. That's what they call three-way handshake for establishing a connection. You understand? That is TCP. Now, this attack, how it occurs is that the attacker will be sending requests, but once this server is sending an acknowledgement, you will not respond back. So the server will be sending an acknowledgement. Oh, yes, you can send a request. The client will just keep sending. Can I send a request? Can I send a request? You just be sending several requests, sync requests. He will not acknowledge. The attacker will not acknowledge to close this connection. That's what they call TCP sync requests. Keep on sending sync requests. Even if the attacker is sending an acknowledgement, just ignore it. Keep on sending sync requests. And it can put down a server. It can overwhelm a server. So let's go back to our explanation. You can see the attacker keeps sending sync packets, but it's not acknowledging. The server is sending an acknowledgement, but this guy is not responding. He keeps sending spoof requests. This can overwhelm a server. I don't know. Do you guys understand my points? Do you understand how this attack? If you understand, please put a hi on the chat. Let me know you understand this analogy before we move on. If you understand what we just explained about sync flood attack, where the attacker keeps sending a sync request without acknowledgement, this sync request would overwhelm that server. Okay, thank you guys. Yeah. Oh, okay. Somebody say no. Okay, Jane, can you unmute yourself and tell me where you don't understand? So that is why I try to bring out this image. This is the usual way a sync attack works. Okay.
Okay, I don't really understand. If the client keeps sending it and the server does not respond,
yes,
does the attack?
Okay, so now this server has a memory. You know that, right? A memory.
Yes.
Now, when the client keeps sending the request, the memory taking that request is taking that the request, work on that request, and send an acknowledgement saying that, oh, yes, I'm available. Now, this client is meant to send an acknowledgement to close down. It will now establish the three-way handshake. But this server, when the client keeps sending a request multiple times without acknowledging this part, right? The request keep getting into that memory and full that memory. That's what we call buffer overflow. That means the request full the memory. That means the request keep occupying, keep piling up on the server memory until there's no space for the memory to process new requests. That is what it means. So sync requests keep coming from the client multiple times, repeatedly, and there's no space for that server to, because the memory, what the server memory does is to process a request and send an acknowledgement. Then when an acknowledgement is sent like this, the client send an acknowledgement saying, yes, okay, I will send, thank you, I will send my request going forward. The server memory will now close that request that was open. It's like when a sync request is sent, the request is open on the memory of the server. It's memory waiting for this client to acknowledge, right? That, okay, thank you, I will continue sending requests. But the server, the client will not send this acknowledgement, this green one, he will not send it, he will just keep sending the request. It's just like me knocking in your door and you are telling me that come in. I just keep knocking. At a point, you will be overwhelmed, you will be tired. You just have to come out and shout at me. But this is a machine. The machine cannot quit himself. The machine will just get overwhelmed. And when it gets overwhelmed, it cannot accept other requests from other legitimate users. That's why it's just the same server busy, server inaccessible. Because the request that is currently the request that is currently processing is from an attacker. The attacker keeps sending several sync requests at the same time to overwhelm the memory of that server. I don't know if you get my point. So the idea is just to ensure that the memory of that server is not used for any other process, any other user, any other process. It's just
what's the difference between DDoS and this sync request?
Yeah, if you look at sync flood is a type of DDoS attack. Look at what I explained. Under DDoS attack, sync flood is a type. Now, the difference between TCP sync is that it is a sync request that is sent under sync flood. But DDoS attack can be any request. It can be someone sending requests to a server, trying to access that server. It does not necessarily have to be a sync request. But a sync flood attack is when an attacker is trying to send a sync request, only a sync request. And a sync request is only associated with a TCP request. I don't know if you understand my point. So a DDoS can be any of this attack. A DDoS or DDoS can be any of this attack. But a sync flood request is limited, cannot be any of this, cannot be a ping, cannot send ICMP protocol. Like ping is sending ICMP protocol, but sync flood sends sync request, a TCP protocol request. I don't know if you get my point.
Yes, it's clear. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for it. Okay, yeah, all right. Okay, so that's different, right? So sync flood is a type of DDoS or DOS attack, right? Majorly sending sync requests, right? Repeatedly to a server, right? Now let's talk about, like I said, the major three that I feel that you need to know. Ping of death attack. What is ping of death attack? Let's take a look at. Now, let's take a look at. Sorry, I think I have a diagram for that. Okay, so on a usual ground, when a ping request is sent, it's called ICMP echo request. A ping is used to check if a system is reachable, right? That's what a ping does. Now, the protocol that is used by a ping to send a request is called ICMP protocol. So the request is called ICMP echo request. A user will send an ICMP echo request, then the server or the destination will send an ICMP echo response. Now, if it's an attacker will keep sending, and then when an attacker will just keep sending ICMP echo requests multiple times, repeatedly to overwhelm that server. Because if it's just a user, you send a ping request, and if the server responds that, oh, I'm reachable, that's all right. but an attacker will not stop there. The attacker can simulate, configure to that ping request to be sending millions of times. So it will overwhelm the server because the memory used to respond to that request will not be, will be busy, will not be allocated to other users. It will be overwhelmed. Other users will not be able to use resources on that server. I don't know if you get my point. So it just works like sync flood, but don't forget sync for sync, it send a sync packet. For ICMP, send an ICMP echo request. That is Internet Control Message Protocol. Echo request is sent from the attacker multiple times, repeatedly to the server to overwhelm the server. I don't know if you get my point. If you don't understand, let me know. Right. So, but this is how some of this attack works, basically to make sure service is not available. Now, let's go on. Denial of service attack prevention. How do we prevent it? Using cloud, if you're migrating your service to cloud, can help prevent, because a cloud service like AWS, Azure does not have a single data center, right? They have several data centers spread across, so it is difficult to carry out a denial of service against a cloud environment, right? Because a cloud does not have a single IP. They have different canonical names, different IP addresses, distributed IP addresses. So you cannot just pick a single IP. Just like Facebook and Instagram, they don't just have one IP. If you do an NS lookup to a Facebook URL, the IP you see today might be different from tomorrow. So they use what's it called? What's that? CDN. A CDN is content distributed server to have different IP in different regions. So it is difficult, to carry out a DOS against a cloud, as you use cloud. So if you have a cloud service, it helps you to prevent DDoS attack. Also, for banks, and other institutions that have on-prem service, there are DDoS and DDoS prevention solution, security solution out there that you can deploy in front of your firewall. That if there's a DDoS attack, it quickly, check into that packet and also prevent it from coming into your network. You can see, and also as a cybersecurity analyst, you can also run a traffic analysis and identify malicious traffic. So when you see several requests coming from a particular IP multiple times, it calls for you to investigate, right? It calls for you to investigate that